Arisers and Dynavaps, this is internet personality Vangelus, and while I'm aware that I said the next review would be Sunstreaker, this is numbered review 420! So let's step out of the timeline for a moment and address the big funny smoke number. I had several overcomplicated ideas for this video over the last year or so, but when faced with actually doing it, I looked around and made eye contact with one toy that just filled my head with the crusty stoner noise of Eyyyyyyyyyyy. And that figure is 1997's Duke Nukem by Risaurus, a company that may well have lived and died before you were even born. I'm not sure what happened to the card on mine, but apparently I was enough of a burgeoning child toy collector to have still saved Duke's big bubble to help store all of his accessories. And the tape disintegrated while I was filming this, so that stopped being a thing that was helpful, because, as we all know, Ziploc bags didn't exist back then, and I can't sully an old toy with new technology like sandwich bags. Coming from an era that I recall as being the burgeoning beginnings of smaller company action figures aimed at older collectors, Duke Nukem has a fairly decent sculpt that throws slightly back to the odd proportions one would see from a Playmates or Mattel. That is to say, his muscles are plentiful and his hands are gigantic. His head sculpt is pretty darn solid regardless, and while this is a tad patronizing from here in the far-flung future, I think the sunglasses and hair have got fairly crisp paint applications for 1997. Duke's got a rather plentiful quintet of accessories for a toy that came on a card, and admittedly, one of those is a tactical suspender vestlet that most people would probably just leave on the figure in perpetuity. It's vaguely He-Man-like to put it on him and take it off. Everything else has got a potential spot to peg onto Duke as well, though the knife and twin MP5s are 3 weapons with 2 storage spots on his thighs, meaning that he's gotta hold at least one of them. The Devastator 4-barrel missile launcher has a quartet of storage pegs with waiting holes on the backplate of the vest, but be aware these are small and the Devastator is big. I lost a peg at some point in the last 24 years, and I'm pretty sure it happened before year 4 of 24. And damn, a fully loaded Duke Nukem stands ready to fight the forces of... Hang on. A fully loaded Duke Nukem stands ready to fight the forces of whatever he fights. I can't remember anymore, pig cops or something. The point is that this toy has got a G.I. Joe's worth of loadout and can make fairly confident use of all of it thanks to his big grippy Titan hands. He does struggle with the knife if you don't wrap it around his knuckles, but all the guns are right at home in those still slightly squishy meat hooks. There is a nostalgic notion here of seeing a very childlike play pattern coupling with an early attempt at an action figure for an older collector, and the rudimentary gunmetal dry brushing on these guns really pops even in 2021. Resaurus Duke Nukem is an old toy, so the articulation's gonna be old. There's swivel. There's a cut swivel on the neck. There's a cut swivel here on the shoulder. There's a cut swivel below one strap and a cut wrist swivel around these giant meat hook gorilla graspers. There is a cut swivel at the waist and a cut T-crotch on the crotch. It lets him sit like a Star Wars toy for old people. There's not cut, but hinge knees with 90 degrees of bend, and that's it. He's sculpted in this kind of bow-legged stance, which means that on certain surfaces, he's happy to stand, but if things get a little bit uneven, there's not much you can do to accommodate for it. The one clever thing for the era here is that his arms have curvature on the various sides of the cut bicep, which means that there is more emoting here than one might expect, because you can have these things going outwards, turn the wrists like that. You can have them going more inwards, as though one were to gruesomely cup one's own crotch as a Duke Nukem might. And that is how he's able to hold, like, not only his little guns, but this thing. Only really works because you can inwardly twist his arms a little bit to match up with the grippy bits and have it, press against his pectorals. The solid stance I talked about before doesn't really enter into play here anymore. You kind of have to have him lean back a little bit when he's shooting this thing, or pop a little bit of a semi-squat in order to keep his balance. It's an old toy, But the way that the arms can change their slithery curvatures, I think was a little bit ahead of its time for what this guy was doing. So that's kind of cool. But boy, do I wish, like, something in the boot or ankle moved to let a similar clever idea happen down here in the legs. I know this isn't an explicitly cannabinoided toy to review on this auspicious numeric coincidence, but as I said in the opener, Duke Nukem just reeks of that crusty stoner uncle who tries too hard and smells too strong. It felt just right. And this nigh quarter-century-old plastic relic is still surprisingly fun to mess with. I think there was a small line of Nukem toys by Risaurus, but I'll leave that research path to those with more interest than me. I don't actually like Duke Nukem that much, I just think he's funny looking. I'm just happy to have spent some time with a weird old toy, and pleased to stretch my video legs in an older swimming pool for a minute, even if the water's a little, you know, sticky and used. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and remember, always be responsible when engaging with your relaxative imbibement of choice. And don't worry, the next review video will absolutely, finally, really, and honestly be Sunstreaker. I'm not doing a bit, I will see you there with Sunstreaker the Transformer the next time a review video goes up on this channel.